Hello, and welcome to ERDC's Beyond the Gates. The theme this season is 7 Labs, 1 ERDC. Discover the power of ERDC's 7 laboratories as they bring their technical expertise together to solve the nation's toughest challenges. From developing technologies that support the warfighter to improving the civil works systems we rely on each day, see how each of these 7 labs play a unique role in engineering a safer, better world. This morning, I have with me 2 guests from the Information Technology Laboratory. I have with me Quincy Alexander. He's Chief Software Engineering and Informatics Division of ERDC, and Megan Saxton. She's the Communication Specialist at ITL. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are y'all this morning?
Good. How are you, Annette?
Doing great, and so glad for y'all to be here. And this is my favorite question. Here we go. You ready? To start us off, could you tell me about yourselves, your background, and explain your roles at ERDC?
The only easy one. I'm Megan Saxton. I am the communication lead at ITL. I've been at ERDC longer than I care to admit. I started right out of college, and I started in the public affairs office where you are now, Annette, and then I moved to ITL, and currently I am in charge of communication for the whole lab. That looks like a lot of internal communication right now, but I also get to do articles and social media posts and some fun stuff with your office.
Okay, Quincy?
All right. My career started off in the private sector, but I transitioned to ERDC about 10 years ago, part of the sensor integration branch, and since then I've become the lead for our software engineering and informatics division. And this division covers our cybersecurity engineering analysis branch, software engineering evaluation branch, the information and knowledge and science management, as well as the CAD/BIM technology center.
All right, great. Well, okay. So when people hear ITL, they sometimes just think of the help desk or fixing laptops for our listeners. How would you define the mission of ITL?
So I'm actually going to read you our mission statement to make sure that I get this exactly right.
Okay.
But our mission is to empower the warfighter in the nation through innovative solutions. And then we also have a vision to be a world-renowned government R&D organization driven by exceptional talent, advanced technologies, and strategic partnerships. And I know that's a broad statement.
Yes.
It is very broad. And we'll get into more detail as we continue. But our scope of work is very broad, and it basically boils down to our team is dedicated to advancing information technology to support the warfighter and strengthen national security. And we can talk more about exactly what that looks like.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Quincy, do you have anything to add to? Okay. All right. Well, good.
We plan this very
Okay. But sometimes there's off the cuff. You just never know. Okay, so the theme of our show this season is discovering the power of ERDC's 7 laboratories. So united to solve these challenges, can you provide an example of how ITL has partnered with another ERDC laboratory to tackle a challenge that neither could have solved alone?
Yes, the Information Technology Lab is pretty unique in that most of the problems that we do address involve larger teams. So information technology is basically the backbone of a lot of problems. And so most of the efforts that we're focused on, we're partnering with industry, we're partnering with academia, we're partnering with other labs, we're partnering with other agencies. Some examples of those may include like our robotics program, where we're focused on communication in GPS denied environments. We're focused on low size, weight, and power devices to transmit information. But we're leveraging the domain expertise of GSL with their mobilities branch. And when we're looking at it in Arctic environments, we're working with our cold regions lab to understand that space, or with the geospatial research lab where, they have the expertise in the geospatial mapping and the analytics. And we're just more about how do we, collect the data, transfer that, and use it to make decisions in that space. So, my particular research area that I started in the Information Technology Lab was in structural health monitoring. And so as we were looking at the infrastructure that supports the nation that's being used well beyond its design life, oftentimes you need data to make decisions on whether to repair, replace, or leave it as is. And so we would work with the coastal hydraulics lab that understood the locks and dam infrastructure. We worked with the geotechnical and structures lab who understood the materials. We would go in and put sensors and be able to pull that data almost like a Fitbit for infrastructure to be able to understand the health of it and then help them make decisions on how to move forward with that. So like I said, the information technology piece is almost like the backbone of a lot of it to get to better decisions. And so there's very few projects that we do in a silo on our own.
Right. Running toward that one ERDC that we speak about. Absolutely. Megan, do you have anything to add? Y'all good? He covered it, right? If y'all could see the look she's giving me, that we're good. To the next question. For a brief history lesson, could you walk us through how ITL first came about and when it was originally stood up? Also, there's a common misconception that ITL is strictly made up of computer scientists. Can you shed some light on the diverse range of skill sets ITL actually brings into the ERDC team?
I can. So Quincy just talked a little bit about our work with other labs, and that is how we started. We started as a lab resource back with the Waterways Experiment Station. There were functions like the Automated Data Processing Center, the Visual Production Center, and even the library that were resources for all of the labs. But in 1986, they actually consolidated all of that, and we became ITL. So we are 40 this year. Turning 40 this year. And since then, we have grown to have our own mission. So we still aid the other ERDC labs. That's a very important part of what we do. But we also have our own work that is, a very, very big piece of what we do. And yes, we are home to the supercomputers. So I think everybody associates ITL strictly with computers and computer scientists. And we do have a lot of people who are experts in areas like advanced computing and software development, but we have so many other specialties, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, autonomy and robotics, virtual reality. That's a fun one. And the scope is constantly growing. So that variety of backgrounds that makes up our lab is part of why we are so successful at what we do.
Awesome. Quincy?
Yeah, so when you asked about the different skill sets that we bring, I mentioned that one of the branches under my division is information science and knowledge management. We've got librarians, we've got editors in that branch. My background is civil engineering.
See, I did not know that. We've
got
not computer science.
No.
Not computer scientists. So, maybe 60% of our lab is computer scientists, but in order for them to be most effective in their roles, you need domain expertise from other areas.
Right.
And so, it's the combination of a lot of different skill sets that I think make us stronger than what an individual discipline would be able to do alone.
Absolutely. Teamwork makes the dream work.
That's it.
A key pillar of ERDC's mission is military engineering. How does ITL help commanders cut through the noise and make faster, smarter decisions on the battlefield?
So right now, the big push has been related to data-driven decision making. And so whether it's artificial intelligence, machine learning, but how do we help get to the right decision faster? So one of the research and development area that's led out of ITL was looking at engineered resilient systems, which is, really about acquisitions. If you're trying to design a new flight platform, being able to use or leverage the high performance computing power that Megan mentioned earlier, to be able to get to a design faster. So instead of looking at a lot of different options by hand, you can run simulations on the supercomputer for different environments, different situations, different payloads, and get to a smaller subset of options faster. And so then you can just make those last decisions. Our systems engineering research branch that's looking at some wargaming and helping get to those decisions of cause and effect and what's going to be the optimal solution. We've got supply chain management research of if you've got an area where you need to get supplies and you need to build something, what's going to be the optimal materials, the optimal kind of type of building to put in that location.
Right.
So based on what's available. So a lot of it is just using this data to get to these data-driven decisions faster with more higher probability of success.
And as you said, the key word is faster.
Right.
Exactly. Okay, so the modern battlefield is so different from the days of World War II. It's now highly digital. So how does the ITL team work to push high-level computing power out to the tactical edge while ensuring our systems are locked down against cyber threats, which is such cyber threats? Wow. It's just crazy how that is rampant everywhere.
Yes, our largest branch that we have is our cybersecurity engineering.
That's the
analysis
largest branch.
That's the largest
I think
branch.
it's the largest branch at ERDC,
Yes.
in fact.
The last time I checked, it was.
Did not know that. Did not know that.
And so we've got 6 different teams in that branch that are looking at the full spectrum from 24/7 network analysis to, we talk about civil infrastructure. So they call it operational technology instead of information technology when you're going and securing to make sure no one hacks into the system to operate a lock and dam and flood a city.
Right.
So that being able to protect the data or protect these systems against cyber threats is a key component of some of the work that we're doing. We talk about pushing the computational power to the tactical edge. We have a lot of research going on in that space too, from, something as, 3 or 4 years ago, we worked on some efforts to actually put a HPC node in the field. So we developed this system that provided shock protection and, waterproof and all of these different. We talk about high level computational power at the tactical edge. We have a lot of research going on in that space as well. Several years ago, we worked on a system that we called HPC in a box, where you could take an HPC node and put it out in the field, and it was shock resistant and waterproof and temperature resistant, had a cooling system. And so rather than trying to collect the data in the field, bring it back to our HPCs, run it, and then send the solution back, you'd be able to actually do all the processing in the field. Mm-hmm. That was at a large scale. But then we have these sensor swarm research where maybe you have a network of a lot of small, low power sensors that you could deploy, and they could talk to each other and process and get these answers. And so that might be for an effort where you're looking at trying to detect chemicals in water. And so you can drop a suite of these small, low power, cheap sensors, and they each are collecting pieces of data and sending it to each other and sending it back to the main system in order to get a decision on the quality of water, if there are any contaminants there. There's other research areas that are looking at in the field when you have these different systems. So you've got your robotic systems, and each of them are performing different functions, and they need to talk to each other to understand, well, I'm making this change, therefore the whole environment is changing. And so now you have to redirect what you're planning on doing. And so a lot of that is just high computational power that's at the edge to help make these decisions. And, really it's all about making a safer environment for the warfighter.
Right. And then it's just mind blowing to me the way technology is just ever changing. How is it going to be in 10 years from now?
Right.
It just,
and when we look at how it's going to be in 10 years, it's kind of exciting to know that we are helping to drive what that's going to look like. We're working with some of the major manufacturers and industry to say, okay, these are the needs of the government. This is the research we're doing. How do we deploy this on your platform so that this becomes a standard that could be used for the larger war fighting efforts?
Right.
Like you said, Annette, technology does change very rapidly, and that's a huge part of our mission and a challenge, but a fun one, I feel like, because we have to constantly stay on top of changes and what's new and what's coming next. And so far, I feel like we've done a really good job of staying on the forefront of a lot of these technologies. I also want to circle back to cybersecurity for a second, because that's one of our, like we said, one of our biggest things that we do. And it's one of my favorite things that ITL does. And I don't get to talk about it a lot because a lot of their work is not something that we can talk about, in a public forum. And that's the information that I deal with. But we do have something called a white hat hacker in that group. And that term, I love that term. They get to go in to these systems and try to hack them as the good guys, to see where there are vulnerabilities, to see where the bad guys might come in and find a weak point. And I always wonder how many students, if they knew that a job like that exists, some of these jobs that we have out here, I wonder if they knew about it. Sometimes I think maybe I would have majored in something different than English if I knew some of this stuff existed. And I love my job, but I love my job, but I think that that's one of the coolest things that we do is, go in and make sure that those systems are safe.
And to have that challenge,
yes.
to say, okay, your job is to hack this system, right? And see how long it takes.
It's a very serious thing. It's a very important skill set, a very important service that we are providing, but also does that
brain power that I'm not aware of. Brain power that I'm not, my son, he's a computer scientist. So he starts explaining things to me and I start floating. I'm like, what's for dinner? I was like, I'm sorry, what are you talking about? I have no idea. When he goes into all those programming things, I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Transitioning to civil works. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is responsible for a massive amount of infrastructure. How does ITL help manage and analyze all the data coming off that infrastructure to ensure it operates safely and efficiently?
And there's several areas that we're looking at related to civil infrastructure. Right now there's a big push towards digital twins, and so we're looking at how can we map the existing infrastructure, understand the as-built, understand what's there, be able to pull in data from their SCADA systems and data from sensors that we deploy, bring that into the model and be able to do different exercises to understand.
Can you explain what a digital twin
I was going to ask that
for people who might not be familiar with that term?
Sure. So a digital twin is a digital replica of a physical system. They can come in multiple layers. So it could be as simple as here is a model of this lock gate, but then become as complex as each time there's a repair done, you're modeling that in the system, you're getting sensor data in real time, and you can update the model. And so once you have this model that's been calibrated, that's got data coming into it, then that becomes a great platform to be able to, again, kind of exercise it and understand in this scenario, this is how it's going to respond. This is where you're likely going to see failures. And then you can start planning based on those predictions to make decisions. So it's going to be more of a proactive approach to the infrastructure aging versus a reactive approach of waiting to see what's going to happen, what happens, and then trying to respond to it. There's less risk associated to trying to understand cause and effect on a digital replica of a piece of infrastructure versus trying to do it on the actual infrastructure.
Take some of the human element out of looking into those changes and kind of do it digitally first to make sure that that's exactly what you want for your outcome.
Well, so a silly question, even weather related, does it test that kind of stuff? Is it able to do that?
The data can be an additional input into the model.
Okay.
So once you have your digital twin, again, it depends on what the piece of infrastructure is. If you're looking at miter gates on a lock and dam, you're going to have different types of traffic. You're going to have different water levels. You're going to have different conditions of, dry and wet. Weather could be a piece of it because, if you're somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, you're dealing with icing during certain times of the year. Once you have the model, it's really a matter of what all data can you collect that you can add to it. And so that actually is what led to us getting into the robotics program in the early phases, because there was a need to be able to collect more data in areas that weren't safe for humans to enter. And so rather than trying to put a person in to inspect in these culverts and things like that no one had been in decades, could we put a robotic platform in and have a suite of sensors that can better understand the environment, and then you can make decisions just based off the data feeds that you're getting instead of having a person go into those.
And we can. And we can do that. That's the damn bot.
And that's the thing. ERDC is so data driven.
Right.
The data is so important. So engineering a secure and resilient future is another central focus of our show this season. So what does the concept of resiliency mean in your laboratory, and how important is it to your research?
Yeah, just like technology is always evolving, threats are always evolving. And whether that's national security or whether we're looking at something like community resilience, we have to constantly consider risks. And the truth is that we will never be able to mitigate everything. So we need sound science and data. We just talked about the need for data that helps drive us to make the best decisions every time. And from a resilience perspective, we have to think about how we respond, recover, and adapt during each phase of performance or during a requirement or a threat, particularly in a way that minimizes impact to the mission. And that could, look very different depending on what we're talking about, but it could be something like the functionality of a dam. We just talked about our robotic systems going into dam works and conduits, a weapon system during a planned military operation, even the environmental lab, works with wetlands subjected to invasive species. So each of those are very different, all require consideration of how the systems will respond and bounce back to threats. And that's why we need to engineer them in the long term so that performance is optimal. And resilience, that's what resilience means in ITL.
Okay. Quincy, do you have anything to add? She covered it.
She covered it
All
well.
right, awesome.
Nailed it.
So technology, as we've been talking about many times, moves incredibly fast. From your vantage point at the cutting edge of computing, what is the single toughest digital or data challenge that the nation faces right now, and how is ITL tackling it?
So I think the biggest challenge we're facing right now is really it's the extremely complicated nature of AI and trying to understand how we're going to optimally implement it into everything we do. We're building so many new things that are focused on leveraging AI. We've been in the AI space for a while now.
Probably longer than people knew about AI.
Right. And so now that it's gone from, machine learning to make predictions to this generative AI where it can write for you or, help get to decisions for you, it's become mainstream. And so how do we leverage all of the things that we already know about the world and take that to the next level with AI? So the other big challenge with this is our old way of managing knowledge, and knowledge in the IT world has really been flipped upside down. So, this is really going to end up requiring a tremendous coordination because we've kind of stovepiped ourselves into all these different pieces of software and knowledge repositories and databases, et cetera, don't necessarily link to enable AI. So, we've had a lot of different organizations coming to us saying, hey, we've got 12 different systems, and in each system, we're calling this thing different things. And so how can we bring all of this together to put into one AI system to be able to get to decisions? And so, but that's basically a similar challenge that we have with our aging infrastructure in the U.S., where we've got this big technical debt. And if we're really going to fully lean in on transforming our future, we're going to have to focus on change that's revolutionary instead of evolutionary. That's going to take a lot of time, a lot of thought, some strong leadership and investment, but we are working on that across ITL and with our USACE and DOW stakeholders to make sure that we're well postured to support these developments and lead in these areas, such as AI and high performance computing in support of R&D missions across the Army and DOW. So this has been done across multiple agencies and with the private sector.
And Annette, actually, one of our newest facilities is an AI development lab, and that's new this year. That's something that we're hoping will help us grow our AI capabilities and better serve our customers and stakeholders.
Right. To me, again, is mind blowing because it's taken over the world. It really is.
It has.
Wow. So ITL also manages, as we've talked about, the Supercomputing Resource Center. Can you tell us about it? Just how powerful are these supercomputers compared to the laptops we sit in front of every day? And people are not going to be able to understand.
I'm going to try.
Okay.
It is really hard to grasp just how fast, how much storage, how much it's very hard to grasp the
Super
scale of
is an
this.
understatement.
Super
right?
is an understatement.
Okay.
And I do, when people ask me what I do, and I say I'm the communication lead for an information technology lab, and they look at me blankly, I then say, we have supercomputers, because it is something that people, can identify with a little, But yes, we were established as an Army supercomputer center in 1989. And then in 1993, we became a supercomputing resource center under the High Performance Computing Modernization Program. And so basically, the DSRC serves the high performance computing needs of engineers and scientists across the DOW. And we currently have 3 unclassified systems. All of those are named after Mississippi Medal of Honor recipients, which is one of my favorite things. One of those systems, Carpenter, is named after Marine Corporal Kyle Carpenter, who is the youngest living Medal of Honor recipient, Mississippi native.
In fact, we did a show with him.
We did. He came. It was very special. That is the largest unclassified supercomputer system in the DOW right now. And then our newest system is named Barfoot after Army Colonel Van T. Barfoot, and we got to host his family not long ago. And I'm going to give you a few facts about this system that will hopefully kind of put this into perspective. So Barfoot is comprised of 212,000 compute cores. And I think, Quincy, we were talking about this. Quincy told me combined we have almost 1 million compute cores across our systems. But Barfoot is comprised of 212,000 compute cores, has a file system with over 20 petabytes of available storage, and it is capable of over 9 quadrillion calculations per second, which, if you were wondering, is 9 followed by 15 zeros. So I'm going to try
Analogy,
to
please.
Yes,
Analogy,
I'm going to
please.
try. I'm going to do my best. Okay, if you handed a calculator to every person on Earth, over 8 billion people, and then asked all of them to perform 1 calculation per second without ever stopping for a break, sleeping, eating, anything like that, just continue to perform calculations, it would take the entire population of our planet nearly 2 weeks to perform the same number of calculations Barfoot can do in just 1 second.
Stop it.
Pretty fast, I would say. So what would take months or years for scientists and engineers to solve on a traditional desktop can be accomplished in just hours or days. And that is the scale of power we're working with.
In Vicksburg, Mississippi.
In Vicksburg, Mississippi.
Very cool. Quincy, do you have anything to add? Okay, she covered it.
She
All
covered
right.
it.
Well, if you can believe this, we're to the last question. See, I told you guys this would go so fast. So, looking ahead in your crystal ball, okay, are there any key takeaways you want our listeners to understand about the importance of the work being done at ITL?
I think for your local listeners, as Megan just mentioned, the Information Technology Lab is bringing a great resource to this city when you're talking about almost 1 million cores of compute power that's able to make these decisions that are changing how we do things around the world. But we're more than just compute power. It's the subject matter expertise, it's the domain knowledge, it's the ability to leverage the technology to not only solve civil works problems, but also the military engineer problems. So, data is, we're becoming a data-rich society. And so the ability to leverage that data to get to decisions faster is going to be the difference in us succeeding or not succeeding, right?
Right.
And so, and it's going to come in a lot of different shapes and forms and factors. So the big supercomputers at the station versus these low size, weight, and power devices that could be distributed across the field, but it's all leveraging information technology to get to decisions and to get to decisions faster and get to the right decisions in a lot of cases. And so proud of the work that we're doing here. Like I said, everything from the advanced modeling to the systems engineering research to, even the distribution and the management of this knowledge through the technical reports and editing work that goes out. And so this full spectrum of bringing data in, data to decision, documentation and management of that knowledge, that's revolutionizing how we do things.
Annette, I think because we work in an office, it can be easy to forget the impact of exactly what we're doing. Because we're not out in the field often, but our work is actually saving lives. It's helping bring men and women in uniform home safely. It's helping protect infrastructure here at home. And that is a very rewarding thing to be a part of. And that is a very special piece of Vicksburg, Mississippi.
Right.
Exactly. And one thing I like to actually tell you guys, the people that we're interviewing here, is just thank you guys for what you do for your community and for the nation. It's in the region. It's so, so important. And the people are finding that out as they listen to the show. Thank you guys so much for being here.
Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, thank you for listening to ERDC's Beyond the Gates. Tune in next week for another exciting episode. Have a great day.